Olivia plans to attend Ohio State in the fall, where she will be majoring in biology on the pre-med track. Her presentation is entitled Creating Kindness Through Our Emotions, the Good and the Bad.
A couple months ago in our English class, we were asked the question, how do we determine the value of a human being? Now, after much thought and 20 pages later, I realized that the best way to determine the value is by looking at how you handle your emotions. Hence, creating kindness through our emotions, the good and the bad. So, when you want to determine the exact value of a human being, all you have to do is remember the 3 I's. It is impossible. It is impossible. There's no doctor that can tell you you're worth exactly 200 points. There's no set way to determine your value. It's just not possible. So I think that the best way to discover your value is through your emotions and how you're handling them. So the first one we're going to look at is guilt. Now, when you feel this feeling, it is a nasty one. Maybe think about a time that you disappointed someone lately, or you hurt their feelings, or you lost something important. It is a terrible feeling. When you let your negative feelings bully you into feeling like you're worthless, that is when you begin to lose your value. When you let it build up and then until you're lashing out and hurting others, that's when it begins to become the worst. So recently in our English class, we read a book called Atonement, and it's about a young girl who makes a tragic mistake, which eventually leads to the death of her older sister and her sister's boyfriend. And a long time later, many years, she reflects, weak, stupid, confused, cowardly, evasive. She had hated herself for everything she had been, but she had never thought of herself as a liar. She hadn't intended to mislead, she hadn't acted out of malice. But who would believe that? To answer her question, there's absolutely no one that would have believed her at the time. Everyone assumed she was right, but in the end, she learned that she had made a big mistake. So, we need to turn our guilt into forgiveness and learn to help others as well to overcome their guilt and move past it instead of hanging on to that bad feeling inside of you. So our next one, anger. This one can make all of your emotions feel like they are nothing. When you are angry, you turn red in the face and nothing else matters, absolutely nothing. It can be very destructive. You can lash out and hurt others, and it is very dangerous. So recently in the media, there was a shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh where 11 Jews were killed in a mass shooting. So the Muslims United for Pittsburgh Synagogue reached out, even though it was not their faith that was attacked, and said, we wish to respond to evil with good as our faith instructs us, and send a powerful message of compassion through action. And this is a great example of taking something very negative and turning it into a positive and learning to forgive. What we need to do with our anger, instead of letting it build up until it explodes, is turn it into motivation. There's always going to be a healthier outlet that you can take your anger out into, like exercise, education, writing, drawing, reading, whatever you need to do to take it out and not let it hurt others. So sadness. This one can be a crippling feeling. Makes you want to curl up on the floor and never see anyone's face ever again. You hit rock bottom is what happens. Now, in the movie Inside Out, is a movie I watched a couple years ago, and the emotions are personified, such as sadness and joy. And in this next clip, you'll see that one of this girl's imaginary friends realizes that he's beginning to lose her as she grows up.
Finally can't be done with me.
Hey, it's gonna okay? We can fix this. We just need to get back to headquarters. Which way to the train station?
I had a whole trip planned for us.
Hey, who's ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster. Hey, Bing Bong, look at this. Oh, here's a fun game. You point to the train station and we all go there. Won't that be fun? Come on, let's go to the train station.
I'm sorry they took your rocket. They took something that you loved. It's gone. Forever.
Sadness. Don't make him feel worse.
Sorry.
It's all we had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time, we had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness.
Sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm okay now.
So in this clip, we see that even though he was really upset, Joy tried to distract him from his pain and the hurt that he was feeling. Now, maybe cheering someone up and distracting them can help short term, maybe make them feel a little better, maybe not, but long term, it's not going to do anything. What you have to figure out is that empathy is the way to really help someone overcome their sadness. So, when you're empathizing with someone else, you're connecting to them and relating to how they feel. This is a great way to bond with others and help them feel a lot better, because when you acknowledge it, acknowledge that they're sad, that's when they really understand how much you care. So the next one, envy. You studied for 10 hours for a test. You pulled an all-nighter, you worked so hard, you wanted it so bad, and then you get your test back, you got a 70. Best. But then you look over at your friend, who has a job, who plays a sport, they didn't study, they didn't care, and they get a 95. Now, how is that fair? It's not. But the important thing is to not be jealous of it, but to maybe turn it into advice to yourself. Maybe I should work a little harder next time. Or maybe not. Maybe relax a little more. So we read a book called Purple Hibiscus. It was mentioned earlier, where a girl is very quiet and shy, raised by strict parents. And what she wants most, she doesn't even realize it at the beginning, but is to be heard. So she goes to visit her cousins and aunt that she's never met before, and she says, "Laughter floated over my head. Words spurted from everyone, often not seeking and not getting any response. We always spoke with a purpose back home, especially at the table. But my cousins seemed to simply speak and speak and speak and speak." So, this is my tennis team here. And I was just going to use this as an example because I would first like to say that I am a perfectly mediocre tennis player. I know how to hit the ball over the net. I can do some good volleys maybe, but I am definitely not the best. Like some of the other girls on our team are absolutely amazing. Now I can look at them and say, wow, I really suck. Maybe I should stop playing tennis because I'm a senior. I'm not even that great as some of the others. Or I could look at them and say, wow, I have some improvement I could be doing. Maybe I'll look at how they're doing it, ask for advice, work harder, and maybe I'll do better next time. So what we need to do is turn our envy into appreciation. We don't need to look at the things we don't have, but the things that we do. Because there will always be someone who's smarter than you, prettier than you, is better than you at really just about anything. So you need to really look at what you do have, not what you don't. So fear. Now, with this word, what first comes into your mind? Clowns, spiders, the dark. Lovelessness, public speaking. Now, the thing with fear is that it can hold you back from accomplishing your dreams. This is a scary one. When you are afraid of something, your body goes into decision-making mode, fight or flight. Now, we are humans, obviously, so we can't fly away from our problems, but we can run away from them. So, for example, you get a pop quiz, and you look at it, you have no idea what you're doing. Do you put C for every answer? Because it's always right. Or do you look at all the questions and take your best guess and maybe try and figure it out a little more? That's what you need to do, is really be brave and fight for what's right. So in the book, Into the Wild, there's a man who decides to follow his heart and go live in the wild. Now, when he does this, he abandons society. Everybody thinks he is absolutely crazy. So it says here, when the boy headed off into the Alaska bush, he entertained no illusions that he was checking into a land of milk and honey, but was checking into a land of peril, adversity, and Tolstoyan renunciation were precisely what he was seeking. And that is what he found in abundance. So even though people were afraid of what would happen with him, he decided to follow his heart and pursue his dreams. So next, I would like to bring up an example that many seniors this year can relate to, deciding where to go to college. This is very scary because maybe sometimes for some people it's an easy decision. But for me, this one was tough. It took a long time to decide. And eventually, I wound up realizing that Ohio State was the place for me. And I know that that may offend many Michigan fans in this theater. Many of my friends are going to Michigan, and don't want to offend them, but it is where my heart is, and I know that the program there is the best for me. Even though it's very scary, it's where I want to be. The thing with fear is that you need to be brave. You realize that you're afraid of something, and you push it away, and you do your very best, and that's what will make you strong. So the last one is hatred. Now, it's easy to look at people and hate them for maybe what you're not, as Ethan was saying earlier, based on age, religion, gender, skin color, just about anything. And it's honestly never justifiable. Like, for example, in the Holocaust, the Nazis hated the Jews, so they killed them. And in Schindler's List, which Jordan mentioned earlier, there we actually get to see the perspective of a Nazi and realize that maybe a group of people is not just good or just bad. So she explains it better here with the problem with stereotypes.
The single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete.
So she says it right just about there. And the thing is that we can't let ourselves tune out all these acts of hatred that have been happening recently, such as the mass shootings, just because there's so many of them. Because 30 years ago, this had never even been fathomable that something like this could be happening. So what we need to do instead of hating others is turn it into kindness. We need to be uplifting and supporting each other, and that is the true way to cure hate and to overcome it. Now, kindness is what can give you value instead of taking it away. There's a quote I came across recently that says, "Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the single candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared." That's very true, because as happy as you are, you can always spread it and always work to make others happy as well. So going back to the final question, how do we determine the value of a human being? In our IB Theory of Knowledge class, we learned that one of the 8 ways of knowing is emotion. Now, there's this idea about it, this naturalist view that says emotions are universal. Everybody experiences them. And I think that that is very true. So when we go to the question, how do we determine the value of a human? What we learn from our emotions and how we handle them is what defines our value. It's not how unfair something was, or how many bad things have happened to you, or how many bad emotions you're feeling. It's how you handle it. Now, I would like to end with a question for everyone here. Will you let your negative emotions dictate how you feel and your life? Or will you take hold of your emotions and change your future? Thank you.